Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
Sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. A life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, so stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life. We're back. Sorry for the hiatus there. I'm Brian. Joining me as usual, Hanno.
Hi.
And
it's my fault.
Yeah. Well, it's not entirely your fault. I could have looked for someone else. Jeannie volunteered.
True.
Tony volunteered. I had somebody else
that's
volunteer. Nice. Yeah. So I had options. I just also kind of liked taking a couple more weeks off.
That's awesome.
So I saw it as a good kind of a not relaunch situation, but just a refresh, and then okay, let's come at this with more energy, or well, not more energy, but you know what I mean, like a little more enthusiasm than maybe before. So
the funny thing was I was before after our last episode, which I think would have been like the first week of November, I believe it was.
Yeah, something. It's been a while. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And I was actually really excited about doing the podcast.
Right.
Like I really was. I was like, you know what? I'm really having fun.
It was November 13th was our last episode, and today is December 20th. So it's been a full month and some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then just everything happened.
Well, we knew when we recorded, like you were going home because that was right before Thanksgiving, right? So you were going to be going home. So it was like, okay, well, we had to record when we did because otherwise it would have been, from that point, it would have been at least another week or so, before we would have probably recorded. So we made sure we got one in then, and then just everything went sideways on you.
Yeah, so I'll go first. I'll catch when we last met.
Yeah.
It was the weekend. It was the weekend before we were gonna have to make our tough decision with Bogart, and
oh God, I forgot about that. Geez, we have to go back to that even. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did, and that Monday we went down to, the Doggy Assassin, and it was. It was so hard. The whole weekend, his breathing just didn't get better. He was just struggling the whole time, and even the last night, it was beautiful. He spent the whole night with me, but it's like it was laboring to breathe the whole time. And the next day we went in, and they had one of the rooms all set up with a blanket, and this was the coolest thing. They had a little tub of biscuits, and a tub of Hershey's chocolate kisses.
Oh, I've heard of places doing this. Because dogs are not
Because why
supposed to have
not?
chocolate, right? But they're gonna die anyway, so let them have chocolate.
So why not give them the
Yeah,
chocolate?
yeah. I love that as much
And
as it's such a
I
like
love that.
such a kind of grim moment there, but it's also like it's almost like finding a little bit of beauty in that moment. Like it's kind of like if you knew you were on your deathbed, right? It's like whatever you've avoided eating, drinking, whatever. It's like I'm gonna have it because I'm dying anyway.
Yeah.
Like screw
Yeah,
it, you know?
right?
Yeah.
So Sharon went and got him a puppuccino basically because Bogart could not handle dairy at all.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
it just he went
Yeah.
right. Yeah, it was not pretty. So at least that was his last meal was a big old thing of whipped cream.
Nice.
But when they did the whole thing, and he's got a real issue with his paws, and first they do a little bit of a sedative just to kind of get him to calm down,
Yeah.
and then they put they basically what they do is they use an old and a dog animal anesthetic
Right.
anesthesia
Mhm.
that they just don't use anymore, and they just basically overdose them, but they still have to
Yeah.
put in like. It's not like just a small needle; it's huge.
Yeah.
So they kind of have to do like a mini IV, and so they did the little they did the anesthetic just the sedative to the back of his neck, and it was funny. He just started snoring instantly, like he was just I'm snoring, and like Bo was cool as the vet sat with us beforehand, and the one they've been treating him, and I just she said, look, this can go there could have been two different ways of doing this, and as far as what it could be a hole in between his aorta, or it could have been I guess the congenital heart failure can take on a couple different forms, and they can be treated differently. But my bottom line is, did you expect the medicine to work?
Mhm.
And she said, yes, I would have expected it to get better after a day.
Oh, okay.
And that was what I needed to hear, because it got worse.
Okay, right.
Right. And so for that, it was like right then and there, I was like, we're making the right decision. As much as we don't want to, we are. And it was a lot harder for Sharon, but for me, because I've been really, for those 3 days, I've been really with him a lot. It was amazing. Even sedated, he still didn't want to have that needle put into his paw, and they were going to do it somewhere else. And I said, "No, I got him. This has always worked for us." And I held him tight. They did it, and for me, the beauty of it was he finally was calm.
Yeah.
And it was really because for days I saw a body struggling.
Yeah. It's
to
hard.
get air.
It's so hard to watch that, whether it's a pet or a person. It is really hard to watch that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when he went completely still, there was a beauty in it for me. Sharon wanted us to try to bring the dogs in, and I did, but they were just so hyped up from being at the vet. I don't think they even really realized it.
Yeah.
And then I left Sharon alone in there for a while. Unfortunately, I think the vet left her too long alone with the dog. She was like, "All right, I'm good."
Yeah.
But what's great is we got the actual 3D paw print.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Or it's like a little a clay, like a disc.
Yep.
And so that was really nice. And so yeah, the whole thing was it's tough. We miss him. I mean, we just flat out miss him.
Yeah,
he just had but I look at the photos, so I have some pictures of him, and I've posted them when we were at the vet, and I look at him and I go, wow, that dog he was so skinny. He had, it was, it was rough on him. So, so that, we got past that, and, it was a tough week, but there was something about it that was different, especially for me, because when Jax died, it was so, sudden and unexpected, and there was a lot of guilt involved because of the circumstances of being COVID and not being, being afraid to take him to the vet. So, I didn't have that, which was good. And there was one day where Benny acted out. He was tearing apart Bogart's bed, but otherwise, it's like, like I just said, we miss him.
Yeah.
So after that, we all jump in the car to go to California, and I was like, oh, we only have 2 dogs now, so we can stay in a hotel. So we got a hotel on the way out, And the next day I get to California.
So real quick,
and
they won't let
yeah.
you have more than 2 in a hotel, even
No,
though they
won't
were
let you
not
do
big
3
dogs. Okay, I didn't know if maybe
Yeah, they
because of
just
the
don't.
size. Okay,
And I've always just kind of respected it.
Sure,
I don't
sure.
wanna, like,
yeah,
all
I
that
know you're
stuff.
not
Yeah.
gonna tip a counter over or something, but yeah, I just
Get all sneaky. That's just
Yeah.
not my thing. So
right. I know
I was like,
most people would
let's just
probably
stay.
just do that and just take the other one in, say who cares,
Well, because Gizmo, you can just stick him in your shirt.
Yeah.
Like nobody would ever
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But I get to California, and I wasn't. I clearly, the coffee drink I bought on the way did not go well with me, and I had a little bit of a grumbly tummy the first night. And the next day I woke up, and I was just like, nice lazy day on Wednesday, no big deal, kicking back.
Mhm.
And by Wednesday night, I'm like, I'm not feeling well. And I just felt that like something's coming on. Like I had a bit of a scratchy throat. And when I woke up on Thursday morning, I felt like garbage.
Yeah.
To the point where I walked out and I told my mom, I'm like, I really don't think I should go. Like, I think I should stay here tonight.
Yeah.
Because, and by the time the evening came, I was, full runny nose, chest congestion, not, more than a cold, but not a flu.
Yeah.
And then that I had what was really weird is then I had a fever one day, but pretty much the good news is that everyone came over. My immediate family came over Friday night, and I just wore a mask.
Yeah.
And that way, at least I got to see everybody and hang out.
Right.
But pretty much even Saturday, I just felt like crap. And then Sunday morning, woke up, felt fine.
That's wild.
Let's go.
Huh.
So I basically went home and laid in bed, or went to my mom's house and laid in bed for 4 days.
Yeah.
So the drive home was great. I was so well rested. The
12-hour
right. Drive,
yeah.
like no problem.
Yeah.
Right. Never got tired. And then for my work week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I just had a cough. Like the residual.
Yeah.
Like where you're like, okay, this could turn into bronchitis or it could pass.
Right.
And what was weird is Wednesday afternoon, I suddenly had this, like, my body flushed. Like I felt so like, it's the only way I can explain it. Like, like when you've got an infection and you have an infection,
Yeah.
you feel it all through your body. All of a sudden I felt like that. I was like, well, that's weird. And I really felt like I felt clammy all of a sudden. And I got home and I made some soup and I had some food, but I really felt terrible. And within 2 hours, I was full on shivers,
Oh wow.
cold chills, the whole deal, like shaking. I had my biggest puffy coat on. I was under all these blankets and I was just freezing. And Sharon was really concerned. And I took my temperature and I was at 102.
Mm.
And it was bad. And so she was ready to get me to the hospital, but I'm like, you know what, give me an ice pack. I'd taken all that, I'd taken some Tylenol and whatever. And so I put an ice pack on my head and that just helped tremendously. And I kind of, I calmed down and I slept.
Yeah.
Well, I slept for 19 hours.
Oh jeez. Yeah, that's that's perfectly normal. Yeah. But it's obviously
Like,
it's your
I
body trying to heal itself. Yeah.
I was out. I
Wow.
was out. And then I started coughing. And for that next day, it was like I would sleep. I had no appetite. I was trying to drink some water. At one point, I could definitely tell I was dehydrating because my kidneys were starting to ache a little.
Yeah.
But by Friday morning, I wake up, I check my temperature. I'm 98.6. I'm like, okay, because the previous day, Sharon was ready to take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, I called into work and I was like, it's probably just viral. It'll pass. And so Friday, I thought I was fine.
Mm.
I was, I talked to, Neil on the phone. I was playing, I was on my tablet again. It was like, no big deal.
Right.
Wake up Saturday morning, fever again.
Oh jeez.
And this time, and now the coughing's gotten really bad. like really bad, and I'm weak. And Sharon was supposed to go out of town for the weekend. She's like, I'm not going out of town until you go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So we went up to the walk-in clinic, and she's pretty much like, I don't think it's viral, but your symptoms show pneumonia.
Yeah.
And she said, I'm going to go with bacterial pneumonia. She's like, I could send you in for x-rays, but I just think I'm going to, do these 2 courses of antibiotics and, let it do its thing. So I get the antibiotics and, and then she set up an appointment with my GP.
Right.
And for I think it was like Wednesday. So I'm doing the antibiotics. I go in on Wednesday. He's like, let's do an x-ray. And so we do the x-ray. And
man, that x-ray.
Yeah, was that something or what?
Yeah.
And so he's just like, oh yeah, your whole the whole lower part of my left lung was
just full.
Right?
Yeah, that was crazy. I haven't seen
crazy.
A lot of x-rays of lungs like that, but it was still like I told you, I was like, yeah, I could look at that and go, yeah, that's not right. Like that, something's real wrong there.
Yeah. And so, I went to work that week, and I would only have like shortness of breath at night, and I was just extremely fatigued, and just the coughing was just so annoying all the time. And but I was like incrementally getting better. And then what happened was, and I was just basically relaxing as much as possible. The funny part was all the guys I play music with are like, hey, are we getting together this week? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding? I finally got on the phone with them, and one of them's like, you sound like shit. And I'm like, excuse me. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I had pneumonia. Yeah.
I still have it. Right. My doctor was like, don't plan on any ski trips for like at least a month. And I'm like, I'm not planning on brisk walking.
Yeah. Right.
Like I would start to walk quickly, and I would all of a sudden be in just convulsive coughing, I had to be super mellow with it.
Man.
Anyhow, I get through the weekend. I mean, like even my bandmate who's a doctor was trying to like and I texted you about this.
Yeah.
He was so like, okay, so what do they have you on? And usually it's this and this and this, and I usually recommend this and this, and I'm just looking at the phone and I'm starting to get really annoyed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, you're trying to make me better, and I know why. He wants me to be better, but to me there's an ulterior motive.
Right.
You want me to be better so I can get back to rehearsing.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm not doing anything until I feel like it.
100%. Because the people I've known, like I remember my mom had a pretty bad case of pneumonia years ago, and and it was the same way. Like she felt okay, but it was like the least little thing, and she was just like, she'd go out and like wash some dishes, and she's like, I'm done. Like that's it, And so I remember that, and it took a while for her to really full on bounce back. And I mean, my mom's 77 now, but this was, good Lord, I don't know, 20 years ago, and it was a while ago. She was still, able to bounce back from things, no problem. It was just like that just really kicked her butt though.
It wrecked me. And like, I was really bummed because I had like no Christmas decorations up. I had nothing, and I finally managed to get some lights up outside on my tree. But like, I mean, it just wiped me out. And so, I get done with the day of work. I get home and I'm done. Like, I'm not doing anything.
No.
So this would have been last Tuesday. Sharon was gone for the night, and I got up to make some dinner. And the hard part was that left part of my lung. So it's basically almost your lower back. So right above your kidneys.
Yeah.
And I had, when I would take I couldn't take deep breaths. I mean, I was like maybe a third, but when I would have to like take a breath or sneeze or whatever, I would feel a little bit of pain in that spot where that lung was, right?
Right.
Well, all of a sudden Tuesday night, it felt like somebody was taking a freaking knife and stabbing me.
Oh, geez.
And I couldn't even stand up.
Oh man.
I got up to feed the dogs, and I was outwardly groaning in pain.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking 8 or 9 on the pain scale for
Oof,
me.
wow.
Like, the only worst thing was when I had a when I had when I had to have a root canal, and I had to go through an entire weekend before I could get the root canal,
Oh
and
geez,
like I
yeah.
remember, like, that is the worst pain I've ever
Yeah.
felt. This was close to it. And the dogs are looking at me because I couldn't even bend over to
Yeah.
scoop the dog food out.
That's how, like, when I had my kidney stone, that's how it was. Like, I was walking from my
Yeah.
room. There's a long walk to the kitchen, and I got about halfway, and I got that pain that literally it felt like someone just stabbed me in the back, and I dropped to my knees. It hurt so bad.
Yep.
So I
That's
kind
what
of
this-
can
yep.
understand what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and I generally don't outwardly express pain
Same.
like this.
Yeah, and I did too. Because my mom came running because I just yelled
Yes.
out, and like you said, I'm not one to tip. If you have that, like, something, you'll be like, or something like that, but I'm not
Yeah,
usually
you
like,
bang your thumb with a hammer.
yeah, but I'm not like screaming like that. I was just like, because it hurts so
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
So it got to a point where I couldn't even lift my arm. It felt like
Wow.
my internal organs were like scraping against each other.
Oh my God.
And
Jeez.
so I generally don't look stuff up like this on the internet because
Right. It usually doesn't end well. Yeah.
no. But this one I'm like, what is this? And there's a name for it. I don't remember what it's called, but it's basically inflammation.
Is it
And
pleurisy?
we have like, that's it.
Yes, my dad had that when
it.
my dad had a spot of cancer on his lung, and he got that, and that's why when you were describing it, I was going to ask you if it was pleurisy, because that I remembered.
That's what it is.
And he was in so much pain from that. And yeah, because I think it's like the inflammation of the sac around the lung is what
That's
it is,
it.
right?
So-
Okay, yeah,
all of our organs have this sac around it that kind of allow things to move and slide and slip.
yeah,
But when that sac gets inflamed, it's basically like raw,
yeah, yep,
organs. And
Yeah.
it is like, it was, so when Sharon finally came home, I was like almost like I was sitting in like almost fetal position.
oh, I bet, yeah,
And all I could do was take like rapid, shallow breaths, because anything more was just excruciating.
yeah.
And she was about a second from dialing 911.
I bet, because it is such an alarming thing when you see, because again, my dad was never one to complain about a lot. And I mean, when he had that, he'd go to take a deep breath, and he'd be like, kind of and it was like, you could tell he was in a lot of pain. So
It was,
yeah.
yep. And that's why Sharon was going to do it. And I finally said, you know what, give me an ice pack. And so she grabbed me an ice pack, and I put an ice pack right on my
So
left
what we've learned about Heno is whenever something's wrong, get him an ice pack.
ice pack. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I put the ice pack on my back, and all of a sudden it was like, oh yeah, like it was like instant relief. Everything got nice and numb, and at least I was able to sleep.
Okay, that's
And
that's
so
good. Yeah.
Right. So I get up the next morning. I make an appointment at the clinic, and I go back in, and this time they ordered a CT and CT scan. So I go up to the other hospital. They do the CT scan, and they also did a bunch of blood work. And now my general practitioner was going out of town, so I had another doctor that I've worked. I don't care who they send me to. We
Yeah.
have amazing doctors, and so Dr. Davis, she's a researcher. I mean, she will do everything, and she basically where my GP will be kind of conservative
Yeah.
and like take into consideration money. Dr. Davis isn't. She's like, I want to know what's wrong with you, and I don't care how much this stuff costs. I'm ordering it all, and I was fine
Yeah.
with that.
Right.
I'm like, right.
Well, especially at
So-
this point, right? Like you the pain you've been through
Oh.
and all. It's like, I just want this
Yeah.
gone.
So
Yeah.
so she's also checking to rule other things out. So she
Yeah.
had all these other blood work done, and so when the CT came back, all it did was just, I got to see the CT today on my follow-up visit,
Yeah.
and it was amazing because it's I don't know if you've ever seen one. It's like I'm standing up, and they like cut me in half and removed my top half, and I'm looking down at
Yeah.
myself.
Right.
And you could, as she was going around the lung today, this was a different doctor. She's like, wow, that was like, and I was looking at it going, holy you know.
Yeah.
And she's like, she even said, I was talking to Dr. Davis, and I was the one that, I suggested these other things to rule the stuff out. Well, check this out. They found an 8 millimeter little lump on my kidney, on my left kidney.
Okay.
And so I didn't even know this. She ordered an ultrasound for me, so I'm going and getting an ultrasound next week.
That I've had done on the kidneys, because after I had one kidney stone, they wanted to see if I had more. So that's how they do it, is you have an ultrasound on your kidneys. It's weird having that stuff slathered on your back and having somebody do that, but whatever.
So she said today that ordinarily she'd order an MRI, but she's like, I think we'll see what we need to see with the ultrasound. And she was like, I know, where's your deductible stuff? And I'm like, look, I have an FSA, a cafeteria plan that is specifically to cover this stuff.
Yeah.
If I need to get an MRI, then we're going to do the MRI. But, at this point, I didn't mind all of it. I know it's going to be expensive when the bills come in, but like I said, that's why I have an FSA. So this brings me towards today where, I had my follow-up visit. Went after the super pain thing. She gave me this antibiotic that it's like the kind of antibiotic where you can't have any calcium, so no dairy, no zinc, no iron, nothing within 2 hours, no vitamins within 2 hours. You have sun sensitivity. It can it caused me drowsiness for like the first 2 or 3 days until I got used to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's basically, I looked up the antibiotics. I'd never even heard it. And it's basically, it is the last ditch antibiotic that they give for anybody with pneumonia or bronchitis.
So I'm
they just want to kill
assuming it's
everything.
really strong. Yeah. Okay.
It's really strong. Yeah. So like I actually this week I felt better. I actually felt stronger. Like I didn't feel just so weak and pathetic. And I lost a lot of weight and but the reason we're doing the podcast tonight and the why I wanted to do it was because last night I actually got bored. Right?
Well, listen,
you've
had all this time, and if that's when you first really got bored, that's pretty amazing, actually.
Right? No, but that was my whole thing. Is like I came home, and I would sit down and eat. I'd watch some TV, watch a movie, whatever it was, or I'd play my video games. But basically, I had no guilt about it.
Yeah, good. You should.
I had
especially something like this. I mean, that's gnarly. Yeah, exactly. That's not just, I have a little man cold or something. This is a whole different beast. Like you had something that takes people out a lot of times. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, this is why people die.
Yeah.
Like now I understand why pneumonia is the death sentence for older people.
Yep. A friend of mine that's a doctor said that the thing that frustrates her most as a doctor, aside from like red tape, is when a patient gets pneumonia, because you can go from being okay to on death's door in like a day, in no time. And she's like, and we have to throw everything at it to stop it as quick as possible. She's like, most other things that people get, are not, we can deal with. And she's like, but pneumonia, sometimes you just can't, even if you air quote beat it, it still might decimate the person in the process. Like you said, it's why it ends up being the death sentence of anyone with an immune deficiency or elderly people or, somebody with prior stuff or whatever. It can just wreak havoc on a person. So it's definitely not something to ever take lightly, if a person has it.
Yeah. And this is the most brutal thing I've ever been through. But the things that I got out of it my silver linings, one was that, I still have a lot of work to do when it comes to asking for help, and being stubborn about my health.
Right.
A lot of that comes though from a lot of going to the doctor or to the hospital and having someone say it's viral, it'll pass.
Yeah. The worst situations, I think, for people is that how many times, like, you have a cold, right? And somebody's like, you should go to the doctor. And you're like, okay, fine. You go to the doctor, you get in there, and they go, you have a cold. Go take some fill-in-the-blank cough medicine, right? Like, it's, like, not strong enough that they're going to give you a prescription, but they're just like, go take some whatever your cough medicine of choice is, And you're just like, why did I waste my time and money doing that? And that stuff, I think, kind of builds in some people's brains, right? You're just like, I know it's just a cold, or I know it's just my sinuses or whatever. And like you and I, right? We've had enough sinus infections. I can probably tell you if I have a sinus infection versus just a sinus cold or something that'll pass in a couple days, right? And but the worst part is if we're wrong, those couple of days might make a big difference.
Well, and that in this case it did, and I was okay. Like, I would have gone to the emergency room that night if the ice pack hadn't helped, on my lung.
Right.
I know I would have. But as soon as if I was able to relax and get to sleep, I was fine.
Right. Can I ask a quick question, which is like for like the pleurisy and stuff, like the pain for that, with you having, been an addict, is that something, if they would have been like, here's pain medicine, would you take something or would you not?
Oh, I hands down, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh no.
I did, because I know you and I have talked about this other times, like where some people, if they're an addict, they won't, take a chance on, even though your addiction was not with pills or anything, but it was still, that's why I was curious. Did they give you anything for the pain? I'm not asking what.
They never even gave me an inhaler.
Wow. I'm shocked they didn't have you do breathing treatment or something like that, like an albuterol or something like that.
That was the doctor today asked me that. She's like, "Did you get like an inhaler of albuterol?" And I'm like, "No one ever did." Wow. I'm like, at this point, I don't need it.
Yeah, no pain stuff either. Ooh, boy. I don't.
I was taking 2 Aleve.
Okay.
And that helped. But I'll tell you, what's the weirdest thing with the pleurisy? Burping and yawning.
Okay, that's interesting.
Were the hardest, because I never really realized they come from very deep down.
You're right. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So today I feel. I mean, you can obviously tell I'm still scratchy throat, and my speech hasn't returned to normal for a while now. But now I just feel like I've got like bronchitis, where it's in my, in the front of your chest.
Yeah.
So if I take a deep breath, I feel like that pressure and I start to cough. But like my coughing fits, I mean, I'm still taking, Mucinex DM to a cough suppressant and also to loosen up the phlegm and stuff.
Right.
But for the most part now, I'm recovering. She just said, do 3 more days of the antibiotic, and then they're going to order an X-ray for the beginning of January. I'll do the ultrasound next week. But the other thing that changed with me is my sweet tooth. Holy wow! I can't eat anything sweet right now.
Really? Wow.
Like, so I just.
Well, you picked a terrible time of year for that.
Well, here's the good part. Like a cookie or some chocolate, I can do. But my gummy addiction is out the window.
Oh, really?
Like, I can't do it.
Huh. Interesting.
I usually have like some sort of gummy treats after lunch at work.
Yeah.
Had like 2, and I was like, oh. The weirdest was for a while their water was too bitter for me. And I was having a hard time drinking water. But then like the electrolyte drinks that Sharon got me were too sweet, but Gatorade was like right at the perfect level. So I was able to drink a lot of Gatorade. I was drinking tea. And then the other one is I tend to drink like a diet Red Bull, a sugar-free Red Bull at lunch.
Yeah.
I cracked one of those a few days ago, took 1 sip, and I was like, nope, just poured that thing out.
Oh, wow.
Couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how there was this shift occurred.
Yeah. Huh. It's weird when this stuff happens. My sister, I talked about on here, my sister had, a very small piece of her lung removed because there was cancer on it. And after that surgery, there's a lot of foods that she's found that she used to love and she can't even tolerate now. And she's like, I'm so afraid to try certain things that I haven't had since then because I'm so afraid that it's going to be ruined for me going forward. So it's like I wonder if it's, if it's in the lung or, it's like, because when we think about how things taste, we just think mostly about the tongue and essentially the nose, right? But it just makes you wonder if there's other stuff in play here that, especially like when you have some sort of an infection or something, that it changes.
I think a lot of it's actually just habit.
Yeah.
And I really think what happened is I broke some of my habits.
Oh, that makes sense. Like if you quit drinking soda and then you go back to it and you're like, wow, this is all sugar kind of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think I kind of had like a forced,
a detox almost.
A detox almost, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I love a simple Lay's potato chip.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it's potatoes, oil, and salt. Those are the three ingredients.
Yep.
And there's just this certain salt. I popped one in my mouth a few days ago, and I was like, "Whoa, that's really salty!" I was like, "Oh my god!" And I just think I broke some habits that are actually really good for me.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure your dentist will be
lunch-
happy if you quit eating gummies.
Oh my! Honestly, the amount of sugar that I consume
Yeah.
is out of hand.
Yeah.
Until recently, now it's honestly gone, man. Like
Wow.
every time, this is where like I always felt like I was.
Boy, that's gonna suck when you get that 10-pound bag of gummies I sent you for Christmas. So no.
like usually after dinner, I always want something sweet, or after lunch, I always want something sweet, and half the time I don't have the desire. I'm still recovering, so like tonight I actually had a pretty big dinner, but my portion sizes have gotten a little smaller. It's trippy. It's really wild. So, if I can stay out of returning to those habits,
that's
I'll be really happy.
Pretty good. Yeah. As much as, I know we both share the love of gummies. It's funny. What actually has kind of recently broke me of gummies was when Tony and I did the gummy thing.
Yeah.
We ate so many of them that like I brought some home. He got some. I ate a few of what's left, and I'm just like, I don't want anything gummy. Like even now, I've gotten to where I'm still like, I thought about it. I was at the store yesterday and I saw some was it the gummy Skittles, and I almost grabbed a bag, and then I'm like, I don't want those. like I'd rather if I'm gonna get something sweet, I don't want that. I didn't get anything, but I was just looking at them, and I almost out of habit, I grabbed them because, when I run out, I typically will grab another bag of something. And I think, kind of killed me on gummies for a while. And I might see if I can kind of ride that because, again, teeth, they're really bad for your teeth. So I'd be better off if I could move away from that and just not replace it with something else also, like you were saying. It's like just,
one
kill
of the
that.
things that I love those, those chocolate covered orange and raspberry sticks.
Yeah.
And I'm not a big fan of the orange ones, but I love the raspberry ones. And I put them in the freezer so they have a little more tooth to them and everything like that.
Yeah, okay.
Right. I will polish off a box of those in like 2 days.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's when I'm at my worst, when I just don't even care how much I loathe myself.
Right.
I will just polish off a box.
Yeah.
I went and tried to eat one, and I was like, there's a box that's been in my freezer now for 3 weeks almost.
Oh, wow.
Or 2 weeks, because I when I was finally good and I felt well enough to go to the grocery store to do some shopping, I went and bought my comfort foods.
Yeah, sure.
And I came home and I ended up I bought a big thing of blueberries. I ended up eating the blueberries and I haven't even touched the chocolate.
Okay.
Well,
I
so
mean,
I'm
that's
like,
the right
all right.
move. Yeah, if you're going to have anything, the blueberries are for sure the better option. But yeah.
Now, they were slathered with whipped cream, but
yeah, well, I mean, that's
beside the point.
That's how they grow in nature. So
isn't it? And Benny likes them that way more anyway.
Yeah.
I didn't realize Benny evidently has a serious whipped cream obsession.
Oh boy.
And I didn't realize it until I poured the whipped cream, and I'm like, dude, dog, what is going on? Like it was like I pulled out the crack pipe or something.
My last cat if I was eating like one of those anything cream filled, like a donut, an oatmeal cream pie, anything that had that kind of, or if it had like Cool Whip on it, anything like that, I would have to seriously hold my hand up to block her, because she would come up and try to, like, she was never bad about trying to get in your food, as you know, wherever you were. But if I had those, if I was sitting in our living room in a chair, she'd get on the chair next to me and get on the arms and sit like right next to my face looking at me. And if I wasn't looking, she would like sneak down trying to get to that cream. And she was like that with that and with Nilla wafers. There was something about Nilla wafers. I was eating some one night, and I was like, I wonder if she'll, so I just break off the tiniest piece and just set it on the chair. And she gobbled it up, and then she looked at me, and her eyes were wide, and I'm like, oh, no.
Oh, no.
I've created a monster. Yeah. Just like her eyes were like, where have those been my whole life? And so I put a couple more down just to see, and man, snarf, snarf, snarf. And I'm like, whoa, okay. So then anytime I'd get them out, because I used to just have a few as a snack, and I'd open the box, and as soon as I'd open that box, she'd come running like it was a bag of treats, basically. So
that's great.
Yeah, the cream thing was nuts, though. Like I had to watch it. I couldn't leave anything down with that, because she would smell it and like annihilate it. So she didn't want like the rest of the stuff, like an oatmeal cream pie. She didn't care about the cookie part of it. She just wanted that cream. I was like, geez, I'm like, I bet if I put down like a bowl of Cool Whip, she'd probably eat all of it. Or a bowl of whipped cream. She like a puppuccino concept, she'd probably attack it. The one we got now, she's on it. Like sometimes she'll take, she'll come over and see what you got, try it, and be like, all right, and walk away. The last one was like a fiend.
That's so funny.
She's like scratching her neck. Y'all got any more of them?
Yeah, exactly. Got the stuff, man.
Yeah.
I was joking around at work about there's that scene in The Devil Wears Prada where Hilary Blunt's character says, well, I got this new method. Like, I don't eat until I'm about to pass out, and then I eat a cube of cheese. And what's her name? Hathaway says, well, looks like it's really working for you. She's like, yeah, I'm one good stomach flu away from my goal weight. Oh, and I just kept thinking about like, I'm, wow, I don't recommend getting pneumonia.
No,
however.
No. Yeah. Yeah.
If you need to change up your diet and lose some weight.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what COVID did that for me too. I don't remember how much weight I lost in the week and a half-ish that I was dealing with COVID, but it was quite a bit because my appetite was gone. I ate, but it was more like I need to eat to live. Like I'm not really eating for any other purpose at this point.
Speaking of COVID, I was when I tested positive for COVID, and I was honest about it and didn't go into work, and I thought, I was using up all my remaining PTO, and I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to go home for Thanksgiving. Well, it turns out that my employer decided to bonus me like 25 hours of just time.
Cool.
And therefore I had PTO to go home for Thanksgiving and take days off for this pneumonia.
Awesome.
So I'm extremely grateful for my employer, and I got a raise this year, and it's really kind of, I'm having a little bit of a shift. The music thing, the guys are doing what they look. It's our passions. It's the thing we love to do.
Yeah.
But the pushiness I've been feeling, it's turning me off, and I see. Well, I have some.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have some, definite obligations that I must fulfill, or that let's just say, I'm not saying I don't have to. I don't have to do anything.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to. There are things I want to do, but I'm really coming into this new year. I think I'm really going to reevaluate stuff because, my work is important to me. I feel respected by my work. I enjoy what I do, and it allows me the income to do the things that I want to do and have the lifestyle that I want. My bands don't do that, and I'm kind of I don't like I'm not into being feeling scheduled and pushed around for something that for me is nothing more than a hobby.
That's what I was gonna get at. I was gonna say it's like it'd be different if you guys were like touring, doing a bunch of gigs, all this kind of stuff, like where there's a real income to it, but that's not how you see the band. And so it's, your tolerance will be lower for that. Like when you feel like it's something you have to have in your life, your tolerance is probably higher for that. But when you're just like, I can still do music, like you don't have to do music in a band. You can do music yourself. Yeah. There are other ways to do it. So, yeah.
Well, it's still something I'm marinating on, and I want to, see what happens into the new year. Like the one group, they're like, "Oh, we might have a gig in January," and I'm just like, I don't think I won't be able to sing probably from.
Yeah, that's what I was
a
thinking.
long time.
Yeah, it'd be different if you only played guitar, but even that takes cardio. Being up there for whatever amount of time, there's still an element of cardio to that. I mean, unless you just sit in a chair and don't do anything while you play.
Yeah, we'll see. It was interesting. I actually did some songwriting before I ended up having the excruciating pain. I actually picked up my guitar and was writing some music, and it's still definitely something that I love to do creatively, but if it starts to feel like a job, I'm kind of out. I think
you kind of said that earlier in the year or late last year, that you were kind of like hitting that point to where it was like, it's still, like you said, it's a hobby, it's a passion, but it isn't necessarily like, it's not the same as maybe it was burning at you in your 20s or something,
totally.
So where you're just like, I understand where I'm at in my life, like
that's it.
Like I'm not getting a record deal tomorrow, probably. This isn't going to become my life. Even at this point, it's like, would you even want that? Like you seem pretty happy with the job you have, and
Oh yeah, absolutely.
like you'd have to like, I don't know, do I want to upset all of this?
No, I wouldn't. So, but it's anyhow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my update. I am pretty well caught up. So
well, I'm glad you're feeling better. It's funny because I hadn't talked to you for a little bit, and I was out with Jeannie and Jen, and you came up, and I was like, I need to text him. I'm like, it was like, it had hit me. I hadn't even been like, hey, how are you? I was like, I'm, such a great friend. So then when you were like, I'm still miserable, but, going the right way. And I was like, okay. And I was like, well, obviously, I'm not going to push you to do a podcast for the same reason as the band thing, right? It's like, this isn't something we have to do. So it's like, it'll come when it comes, and, and then, like I said, I was kind of like, it's kind of nice to. It's weird how these still bring, like, for somebody with anxiety, doing a podcast can bring pressure, even though it's something I enjoy, it's something I want to do, all this, but there's still an element of pressure to it because of the anxiety level of things. It's similar to like if I'm going to hang out with a friend, I still feel anxiety and pressure and all this kind of stuff, even though it's something I know I'm going to go have a good time, I want to do, but my brain still wants me to find ways out of it. And I was going to text you yesterday, and I just forgot. So when I saw you text today and you said let's record, I was like, oh cool, you're because I was going to see if you were up for it or if you wanted to wait till next week, or because of the holidays and everything. But so I'm glad that you're seemingly doing better than all of that, because boy, that's a fun few weeks there. That's a lot. Well, and like you said, you had just had COVID not that long ago before all this. Yeah. So it was like one into the next, and so and that's a hell of a month and a half.
That may have had an effect on what happened.
That would make sense, if it did, because it is like you're getting like chain reaction stuff. It's like each thing kind of weakens you a little bit. You need a little time for to get your strength back. So hopefully, hopefully that's it for the year. It's weird though how both my podcasts partners, like you had a dog that you had to put down. Tony and them had to put one down. Tony's been dealing with some weird crud for a couple weeks, not to the extent that you're dealing with, but still the fact that we took last week off because he couldn't talk. I mean, we did a bit for Hobie that was just a couple minutes. And I mean, every time he went to talk, it was cough, cough, cough. You know, it was brutal. And I was like, I can't imagine if we had tried to do a show with that, it would have been a mess, you know? So, you know, it's like, okay, well, you know, like last week I, you know, had a week off from both, which felt so weird. Anytime that's happened, which isn't often, but every time that's happened, it just feels like I should be doing something today, you know, like, you know, because it is routine, you know, and when you miss part of your routine, you feel a little weird till you straighten it out. But I also, like I said, you know, it's been kind of nice to it. So yeah, we're going to my sister's this weekend for on Christmas Eve for the family thing. So, you know, that always stresses me out beforehand. It's usually fine, but, you know, it's just I know it's a group of people, right? So anytime I know there's a group of people, it's immediate. And I've been this way since I was a little kid. I used to, like, when it got close to Christmas Eve, my anxiety would, and it's funny because I didn't realize it as much then. You know, now I look back and go, oh, yeah, that's why there were a few times where I didn't go and my dad stayed home with me. And it's like, yeah, my head got my stomach all messed up and I had to stay home. And, you know, it's like now I know what I'm looking for, so it's easier to kind of go back through the archives and see that this isn't new behavior. This is something I did even as a kid, you know. And it wasn't that I didn't want to go. It was just, I mean, it was a larger gathering then, though, because it was, you know, I had aunts and uncles and all their kids, and it was a much bigger deal now. Whereas now, it's some of that family has kind of segmented off into their own thing, so it's smaller, but it still can be 20 people, you know. But it used to be probably like 40 people. You know, it was a lot, and it was just, there was no reprieve. You know, I remember even as a kid, I'd go outside off and on a little bit. So, and I still do that now as my coping mechanism because it works. But yeah, you know, so that's coming up, and I've had to go to the store a few times this week, which, you know, I was for sure not looking forward to, but turned out to be not that bad. It's been weird because stores around here have been busy, but when I've been in them, they haven't been like, oh my God, I gotta get out of here kind of thing like I've seen in the past. And I don't know exactly why that is, but it's just different somehow. Like I was even in Target on Black Friday, and it was busy, very busy, but it didn't, I don't know, it was like people didn't seem, maybe it's because it didn't feel like people were being jerks. And a lot of times in the stores on those kind of days, people are real jerks because, you know, the stores get like 4 of something and you have 100 people lining up for it, you know, that kind of stuff. But, you know, whatever. I was that about a week ago, I was taking my trash out and I racked my arm on the house because I was walking between the car and the house. I hit my arm on the house, and, you know, I hit my arms and hands all the time. It's no big deal, right? But when I did, the bag I had in my hand was heavy, and it twisted and kind of pulled, and my fingers got wrapped in the twist things, and I couldn't just let it go. If I could have just dropped it, I would have been fine. But as a result, it yanked the heck out of my wrist, and my wrist has really been bothering me since. Like, I don't think I did anything real bad. I think it's just a strain. But it's now I'm reminded how much I do with my right hand. You know. Because I'm left-handed by how I write, but I use both hands. I'm not ambidextrous in that I don't pick up something with one hand and then just continue it with the other kind of thing. But I do a lot of things with my right hand. I do a lot of things with my left hand, you know. So I'm finding out, like, you know, I go to untwist the cap on my water bottle, and I always grip it with my left hand and then twist with and I'm like, oh, I can't do that. I got to, like, hold it with my arm and twist with the left hand to open it, and just all that kind of stuff. And like I said, it's not that big a deal. But where I'm finding that it really bugs me is when I'm trying to sleep. Because I think when I was younger, I used to curl my hand up under my chin when I would sleep. Huh. So when I have trouble sleeping, I tend to go back into almost like the fetal position with my hand curled up under it, right? So I'm finding that I can't do that because if I do, it hurts like crazy when I bend it like that. So I can't get into my, like, old comfort spot, you know?
Oh.
So it's weird how I've been sleeping like garbage since I heard it. And it's so strange because I wouldn't think that that would make that much difference. But I can't, like I said, if I tuck it up under my chin for any length of time, it starts to hurt almost and throb almost immediately. So,
Huh.
and it's like I don't think I did anything bad because I still have full grip strength, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think I don't think there's any like tears or anything. I just think I strained it real good. But it's just funny, you know how it is. Like when you don't have something that you had, you know, and you have to compensate. It's very strange to learn how much you use something you don't think about. You know,
Yeah.
like our hands. I mean, I didn't hurt my hand, but it's the wrist. So anything I need to, you know, I was changing a light bulb in my room yesterday, you know, and even that, and it's up above my head because it's in the ceiling, you know, and I was like, oh yeah, I can't do this with my right hand. I got to twist this with my left, you know, it's just little stuff like that. It's funny how you learn real quick because, you know, or carrying in groceries yesterday because, you know, I'm a guy, so we have to carry everything in one trip, you know.
Of course.
And yesterday I was like, nope, this is a 2-tripper because I can't carry anything in that right hand. So, you know, it's like, okay, fair enough. But other than that, I've been pretty okay. You know, life's been normal. I had therapy recently, had a really good talk with her actually, about how to try to not be dismissive of others when they're talking to you. Like, you know, when you've heard a story a million times or whatever.
Oh.
And, you know, she was telling me how, you know, a good way to deal with that is to take a step back and think about it from the other person's perspective. If when they go to tell something, if a person is just, you can immediately see the person shut off, how frustrating and hurtful that is. And she was like, do you want to make someone feel that way? And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, no, I don't. And she goes, then there you go.
Yeah.
That's where she's like, you just have to try to take that step back and look at that when you're doing it. And I was like, okay, you know, so I've been trying to be more aware of that because, you know, it's hard, you know, because when you've already heard stuff and blah, you're just like, yeah, I know, you know, kind of. But, you know.
To me, that was that when the concept of karma was explained to me from the standpoint of, like, let's say I open an envelope, you know, or you know, a letter, and it's bad news.
Yeah.
And I go, you know, if I just suddenly just express myself, and then like somebody else is in the other room, and they're minding their own business, doing their own thing, and all of a sudden I go, what's wrong? Right? That's karma. I just affected somebody else.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? And when that was explained to me, I was like, oh, whoa, that's how simple it is. That if I'd have just kept my mouth shut and just, you know, read what I read and kept it to myself, I would not have affected somebody else's being.
Yeah.
Where they were actually stopped what they were doing and became concerned with me. And I think the same thing kind of happens if you know, if you outwardly, that your outward expression can change somebody's insides.
Yes.
In a moment.
Yep.
Do you want to be that person or do you not want to be that person?
Exactly.
And I have a hard time with this.
Yes.
But it's the one thing I'd like to be better at.
Yeah,
is that even if something is like frustrates me or angers me, that I don't outwardly do something so that and it was expressed from the standpoint of this has to do with Buddhism, and that we have our, you know, we have our inner Buddha, we have our outer Buddha, you know, and then there's the spirit. And when we, you know, we are getting ourselves out of balance at that moment, right? And all of a sudden my outer being can have an effect on someone's inner being.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. And I was like, oh my goodness, I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I have some right to express my sudden frustration. And I don't know that the person standing next to me can be very sensitive.
Yeah. And it's never the intent. You know, we're just expressing our whatever, you know, because it's like, you know, we all deserve and it, you know, we're allowed to feel how we feel. But you're right. It's like we don't, when we do stuff like that, we never think about somebody around you, because it does if you're in another room and somebody does something, depending on their reaction, it could, scare you a little bit. It could, alarm you to where, so that's interesting. I had not thought about that. That's, wow. Yeah. So, we had a good talk about that, which was really helpful because, she was telling me about how people in her life are similar to, the situations I was explaining to her. And it helps because she could directly identify with it. And she was like, this is how I helped myself, and I was like, awesome. Because that helps because I did need that. It's like, I do need that ability to try to check myself in the moment, pull back a little bit and go, okay, kindness, like
Yes.
acting the other way is not acting in kindness, so, and then that's been my thing for the last few years, especially is I've been trying more and more to opt for kindness when it's an option, and that I didn't realize how much I wasn't in that scenario kind of a thing. So that was another one of those like kind of aha type moments, and whatever. So that was nice to go to. I finally got one of the fillings I've been trying to get forever. I still have one more to get because they were gonna do them. They were gonna do them both the same day, but somebody came in with a dental emergency, and the dentist was like, "I'm really sorry, but I only can do one today." He's like, "I got a guy over there that broke teeth and is in a lot of pain," And of course, I was, very upset, threw stuff. No, no, I of course was very like, oh yeah, for sure, go help that guy out. Take care of the worst of my two situation, and then my next one's like next month, and then hopefully that's the end of it for a while at least. So I was like, ugh. So frustrating to have to keep putting stuff off. It's bad enough I do it on my own. It's even worse when when it happens on the other side of it. But I can't get too frustrated because it's like, well, I put it off for a while too, So it's not like I've always acted like, hey, let's get this done. There's been times where I've gone like 3 months before I schedule an appointment, which adds 3 months to how much time it's going to take to get done and all that stuff. So, but yeah, other than that, it's been pretty, I've fortunately been selling a few things on eBay, because it's Christmas time. That's been nice to be out of the scarcity mindset a little bit for a couple weeks, to where it's like, cool, I can buy some gifts for my mom, and I can, not have to go, I can't, like it just, I still think about before I spend, but it's not as like, I can't possibly do this because whatever, like, when I went out with Jen and Jeannie, although that almost did turn into a financial mess on me. I forgot that my Verizon bill hadn't come out yet, and I'm thinking I've got $100 on me, so I'm like, I'm good. I can have a couple beers, get some food while I'm good. And then we're sitting there. I don't know why, but something hit me to check my bank account. When I did, it showed like $14, and I'm like, oh. And then I looked at why, and I was like, oh man, I forgot about that. I thought they had already taken that out of there. So, I was okay though. I'd already bought my food, and I was like, okay, I just have to square away how I'm doing things a little differently here. But it was that quick. It could have went, I could have overspent. And I'm sure Jen or Jeannie would have covered me or something, but you know what I'm saying? It was just like, ooh. I was like, oh, I'm glad I looked. So good reason to stay on top of your resources. Although I had earlier in the day, I looked before I went, to make sure I was okay. Then that came out in the meantime, but whatever. So, but that was a good time, hanging out there, because it wasn't like crazy busy. It was, a little busy, but it wasn't bad. And we just sat at the bar and had a couple of pints and some good barbecue, and just had a good time. So that was nice.
Oh.
Yeah. It's always nice to be able to, get out and hang out with friends and stuff and whatever. And also, not read it as a stress situation. Something I was explaining to somebody I know is that it stinks when you go out for something that should be a net positive, and when you get home you see it as a net negative, and it's like, man, because then you're like, why did I do that? And then next time you might be like, well, I'm not going to do it because, whatever. But
Yeah.
You got to keep pushing, especially if you're somebody like me with, issues leaving the house anyway. Got to keep pushing to get out of the house.
Yeah, I heard the term FOGO, fear of going
Fear
out.
of going out, yeah. That's, I mean, it's not wrong, Like I said, even going to the store and stuff, I hate it, but I also know it's good for me to go out and be amongst people as far as pushing through my boundaries. So that's why I don't always schedule the car pickup for the groceries. I kind of make myself go in sometimes to, like I said, just continue to be around people. Although most of the time what I do is like I go to there's a little grocery store up the street. So that's the one I usually will go into. And then for the bigger grocery store, a lot of times I'll schedule the pickup. That way I don't have to deal with crowds and lines and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. It was funny because like when you're out sometimes and you just decide to buy yourself like a little treat or something. I'm at the store yesterday and I walk past the donuts and I'm like, I kind of want a donut. Like I hadn't had a donut in a long time, and they had like some cream-filled ones that are basically like a jelly ball but it had cream in it instead. And I was like, and I love those things, and I was like, I'm gonna get one of those, And so I got my mom a different kind and whatever. And I was eating it last night, and it was like, I have no business at all eating this, kind of a thing. But I'm like, it tasted so good. It just, it's like, these are the kind of moments to where it's like, if I'm going to say no here, why am I living type of thing, It's like once in a while you gotta have something like that. But also, it's like I'm not buying a dozen donuts for her and I to have, sitting around to where we'll just crush them in a couple days, It's like, just buy 2 or 4 and that's it, and we're good, But it is funny, like looking at that. I was thinking about it the other day. There's something I saw that talked about make sure that you're being kind to people through the holidays about what they eat, because you never know who's dealing with body dysmorphia or eating disorders of some sort. And I was like, that's something I wanted to bring up on here because I thought that's a really good idea, is to, be real aware of that, because even in jest, you don't realize that people who have some of these disorders, like even something said in jest, they still may take seriously. If you make some comment about, oh, you got a little belly on you or something like that, that can really send somebody into a spiral and all that kind of stuff. And that just also, it's like this time of year, it's like, most of us really don't care, because most people pretty much go, okay, it's Thanksgiving on, it's like calories don't count until January 1st, then it's like, oh man, what have I done to myself? It's time to get exercise equipment and all that. But, but through the holidays and stuff, it's like, just do your best to avoid talking to people about their weight, what they're eating, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of, just let people be. I mean, not just then, anytime really, because it's none of our business what somebody else is eating. If Henno was sitting here right now eating a whole bag of gummies, I might be concerned, but he's an adult. He's allowed to eat whatever he wants. But that's why I tell my mom all the time, because she'll be like, oh, I did this. And I'm like, I don't care what you eat. I was like, I only care that you eat enough. I want to make sure you're getting enough to, like, I don't want you to, like, starve yourself thin kind of a thing. Like, otherwise, you're a big girl. Like, you know what you should and shouldn't have. If you choose to eat it anyway, you're an adult. I'm not going to try to control anybody in their food habits, because I've heard enough stories from people where they've had somebody controlling like that, and I've seen the ramifications of it, and it's horrible. It's just, it sucks when somebody takes your love of food away, when, food is such a comfort and such a fun thing for us to share with each other. So like I said, just be cool with people about it. And, as always, we always bring this up every year too, which is, if you have somebody in your family that's being inappropriate or bringing up politics or blah, 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 it's like, just do your best to reframe and change the subject. And if you can't, walk away from them, and if that doesn't work, I mean, leave and make it known while you're leaving. Say, hey, I can't, you can't control somebody else, but you can definitely control how you handle the situation and what you'll tolerate. So, be kind to yourself in that moment too. And, you don't have to sit and handle that kind of frustration. Now, I guess it's a little different if you're your ride. I've been stuck. But, now we do live in an age with Uber and all that stuff too. But, just try to be kind. If you feel yourself getting really frustrated with somebody at one of your family parties, do like I do. Go outside for a minute. Go into the bathroom for a minute. Just try to recenter yourself. Do a little meditation or focus on something on your phone that you really enjoy. Play a quick game of something on your phone or whatever, and try to reset your brain a little bit, and then just try to avoid the person when you go back out. And thankfully, most of my family's not like that. I don't usually have to worry about politics and that kind of stuff. Thank goodness, because it's like this is just, what's the point of us? Oh, let's all get together and yell at each other. That just doesn't. It just doesn't seem like much fun. So, yeah. So my update's not as exciting as yours, but I'm okay with it though. I think I'd rather take my last few weeks. Yeah. I don't think I'd want to trade you at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
No. It doesn't sound like a good time at all.
No. No, it definitely wasn't. So.
Jeez. Well, like I said, I'm glad you're on the mend and we're back and.
Yeah.
Whatever, and
it was so funny how I was like, man, like I said, I was like, I'm kind of bored. I'm like, maybe it's time to do something. And then when I got home, I was like, I'm actually kind of excited to do some podcasting. This is cool.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. Me too. I've been anxious. I mean, also because you and I haven't really talked, but, I wasn't going to at any point be like, hey, we should jump on and just chat because I know, you've been coughing and stuff. It's like, it's just torture. So.
Oh, it was just miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, when Tony asked me about recording Monday and I was like, like, are you good? And he's like, yeah, I can do. I was like, okay. I was like, because if not, we don't have to do this,
Yeah.
or, well, that's the other thing too, right? Like you're my backup for the other show. So like a lot of times when Tony hasn't been able to, I'd holler at you and be like, hey, can you fill in this week? And I'm like, Like, again, I'm sure I can find somebody,
so
but the idea is just funny that it was like, like, now what am I going to do? I guess it's time to call Tate. Hey, you want to co-host a show with me? No Tony. But, yeah. All right. Well, I don't really have anything else. Do you?
Yeah, it's a good catch up, and
Yeah.
and it was perfect time because I could say Merry Christmas to everyone and
Yeah.
Happy New Year, and we'll probably do our next show at the beginning of the year and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're
do
right.
our,
Yeah, because
do
2
our
weeks will...
usual, right? And and I had to go look back at what the power word
Oh,
was
yeah,
again,
right.
and
Yeah, because it'll be time for power words again. You're right.
set some intentions.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just I'm really. I haven't felt this, as miserable as I've been. I actually haven't felt this much gratitude and just happiness with my life. Things like this. It's not like I had near-death experience resets everything. It wasn't that. It was just more about the fact of simple things,
Yeah.
health, friends that you love to interact with, people that bring you joy. And to have a good laugh at the things that are kind of, sometimes rather than getting frustrated, have a good laugh at it.
Yeah. I'll tell you,
and
that has maybe
yeah.
gotten me through more in my life than anything, is just the ability to always find something funny in a scenario. Like I said, my dad and I in that last year of his life laughed so much. We laughed at everything. Like even at one point when he had to have his teeth pulled out and he got false teeth, and he went to, because he would have stuff he had to cough up quite a bit, and he would go to like spit or something like that, and I'd be like, hold your teeth, kind of thing. And one day he did spit his teeth out, and we laughed so hard because I had been making a joke to him about it for so long. And then when it happened, and it's like, I'm sure you've seen the gif of the woman blowing out the birthday cake and her teeth come out, and that cracks me up because it reminds me of that moment with my dad, and it was like, but in that moment, it was something where it kind of sucked for him, but also, we found, but there were much darker times where we found joy and laughter when I think most people would have been like, why are you laughing right now? I was cracking jokes literally while my dad laid dead in our bathroom, and I was making jokes and, got into an argument with my aunt about that, and I was like, this is the fucking time. Oh, sorry. This is the time to make jokes, like this is the time. I need this because if I don't, I'm going to fall apart. Jokes are helping me through. So yeah, that sense of humor goes so far. My mom has said for years her faith and her sense of humor are what have kept her, when people ask her how she can be strong, that's her answer. It's my faith and my sense of humor, and I think there's a lot to that, whether it's a faith in God, a higher power, whatever it is, there's something, buying into a bigger picture than just ourselves,
Well, and we can also have faith in ourselves in that I know it took me a while to learn it, but I know if I want to, I can have patience and compassion and love if I want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's based on having faith in myself that I can do that. And I learned that through sobriety. I learned that when we would be around people that were, having a really tough go of things and mental health issues and things. And there would always be this is one thing I love about being involved with these groups is, somebody would like have an outburst and instantly there'd be people that would be rolling their eyes or making little comments or, whatever it is. And somebody from the back of the room that rarely says anything will bring up our love and our compassion and our understanding and our patience for others. And all of a sudden the room gets silent because just called everybody out.
Well, and you can't make a comment then because you're a real jerk if you do after that. Right. Yeah.
And so all of a sudden it was like, well, they're right.
Yeah.
I can choose to practice patience, love, and compassion at any time I want to. And that's having faith in me and that you're not less than by you're not, you're actually you are opening yourself up to that bigger picture like you were talking about. And it's still an inside job, right?
It is. Yep. I found a weird, at least in my framing of it, how it feels weird, a weird gratitude situation, which was different people that I'm friends with or have been around in the last year. I've seen a lot of people go through some really hard things in the last year, couple years, whatever, life, and I think I realized with a lot of them where it's like, I've been through that kind of thing and I've looked at it and gone, wow, because I went through that, I can show empathy and kindness to them while they're going through this. And someone did that for me at some point, right? And it was something I don't think I saw as a gratitude moment until this year, to where it's like, having gone through those hardships, again, you and I have talked and we both are we're right where we're supposed to be kind of moments. And I've had so many of those to where I'm like, wow, this is something I went through. I can help somebody maybe not be so hard on themselves because I've already been through that, and it's nice when you see that you can do that for someone, and then you see them be kinder to themselves because of it, and you're just like, this is so awesome. Like, this is what we're all supposed to be doing for each other. You know, like, not being pushy about it, not trying to take the moment as yours or making it all about you, but letting someone know you're not alone. You know, I've been through this too, and, you know, here's what helped me, kind of a situation, like my therapist even doing that for me the other day and whatever. But, you know, I'm, like I said, seeing it as a gratitude moment now, as weird as it might sound, like watching others struggle puts me in a place of gratitude, because it's like, oh, someone helped me through those moments, and now hopefully I get to help them a little bit through those moments also. You know, and it's not about like being a white knight or anything of that effect. No. It's just like I said, it's just showing kindness and empathy for others because they're going through something really hard. You know, and you know, I talked with somebody the other day that they just lost their dad recently. You know, this guy lost his dad, and he's, you know, really starting to feel it because it's Christmas time, you know. And I was like, this year's gonna suck. I said, there's just no other way about it. I said, don't think it's not, you know, like, don't go in thinking it's gonna be fine. And I'm like, let yourself feel, live in it, let yourself feel it. And I told him, I said, buddy, I lost my dad in 2005, right? There's a Corona commercial, and I've talked about this before, where they play "Oh Christmas Tree." And it's on every year. And my dad and I used to, for whatever reason, I don't even know how it started. I think it was we were watching Charlie Brown Christmas. And when Charlie Brown is singing, or they sing "Oh Christmas Tree" around his, you know, his beat up tree, my dad just started going, "Oh, Twistmas Twee." And I don't know why, but that became one of our things. And as a result, whenever I hear "Oh, Christmas Tree," I think of my dad, right? Well, the first time I hear that commercial every year, it is, I have to fight back tears every year. And like I said, I lost my dad in 2005. I mean, it's 18 years ago, and it still punches me hard right in the chest, you know. And after that, I'm okay. And I've gotten to where a mindset to where in my head, that's my dad saying, you know, "Merry Christmas" to me, basically, or that's meant to make me think of my dad again, you know. So that's how I cope. But I told him, I said, it's going to suck so bad. I said, because he was close to his dad. And I said, it gets easier, but it doesn't hurt less. You know, I said, a lot of people will tell you, oh, you know, the time heals. I was like, it doesn't. It still hurts like crazy, but it gets easier to cope with, you know, over time. Because now it's much easier for me to cope with those days. You know, my dad not being there on his birthday, Father's Day, Christmas, whatever, you know. But it still sucks a whole bunch, especially on social media. You know, when you see everybody on Father's Day, you know, "Happy Father's Day" and all this, and you're just like, man, I wish my dad was here, you know, like, but I'm glad all those people still have their dads to wish Happy Father's Day to and all that. Same with Christmas. So I'll also say what I say at Father's Day to people, which is, if you still have your dad, if you have beef with him, if it's squashable beef, squash it. Because someday you'll really wish you had if you don't. But also, you know, if your dad's still around and you're near enough, you know, give dad a hug, tell him you love him. Don't let those things go unsaid. You know, my dad and I didn't say that to a lot of each other, but that last night that my dad was alive, before I went to bed, I, for whatever reason, said, "I love you, Dad." He said, "I love you too." Those are the last words I said to my dad. And I'm okay with that. You know, like, I didn't leave it out there. So if, you know, whether it's your dad, your mom, anybody, you know, like I said, try to squash them beefs, because I've seen too many people this year lose somebody and, like, you know, I wish I would have this, I wish I would have, and it's like, just living with regrets, you know, it's no good, especially on something like telling somebody you love them or whatever. But also, hopefully this is the, you know, next year's a lot better for people with their pets, because, man, it seemed like everybody I know had to have at least one pet put down this year. It has been nuts. Yeah. You know, so hopefully that eases up too. Otherwise, you know, we may, as a collective, have to go visit death and, you know, kick his bones around. Anyway. So yeah. So yeah. Hope everybody has a great time with their families. Hopefully it's relatively stress-free. Be nice to retail workers if you go out, and any sort of hospitality people, whether it's servers, hotel staff, whatever, be nice to these people that, because a lot of people are just absolute jerks to them this time of year. Just really jerks. So, yeah. But yeah. All right. Well, I guess I should pull up the thing, huh? I forgot to pull up the thing with all the links in it. I'm so far behind. Anyway.
Well, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook if you put in Henno Heiter, and it's pretty easy. I'm all over the place and posting lots of pictures of my puppies. And we are actually been looking at another rescue Frenchie lately, which it's kind of tough because it's nice having 2 dogs.
Yeah,
but
I was going to ask you because I know you guys tend to have the army of animals, so I was wondering if you were going to kind of just ride with 2 for a little bit, or if you were going to find another one at some point.
We're seeing there's a lot, because the French Bulldog has become so popular. There's a lot of them out there that are getting left on the side of the road, or just abandoned, or just bred like crazy. And then and the thing that we're seeing is this is locally, at least, where dogs are being adopted out of foster care, and then the people that adopt the dog end up not wanting them after a month because whatever, their circumstances weren't ideal. And so we see these dogs getting bounced around a bunch, and those are one, we have a dog door, we have a yard, we have other dogs the dogs can play with. A lot of these dogs are being stuck in kennels and just being left in kennels, and then they wonder why they don't behave. So we've been looking at a few that are in Salt Lake City, and we'll see what happens.
Tough having a soft heart, isn't it?
But like I said, if you find me on Instagram and Facebook, you'll be first to know whether there's a third pup in the house.
Right. No, you got to get your cat first.
Oh God, the cat thing. I go and see these amazing cats, and all I keep thinking, I saw a cat this morning out on the, out running out in front of their house, and all I can think about is the wild animals we have around here. I just can't imagine an indoor-outdoor cat's life is very long. When we have mountain lions in people's backyards.
There is that. I didn't think about that. Yeah. All right, fair enough. So instead, you'll just go get a cat that's a dog. Yeah.
That exactly. Yeah.
Yep, that's fair. Really quick, talking about like this time of year and stuff. It's like I keep seeing every year too about where people will be like, please do not just surprise someone with a pet as a gift, because unless you know the circumstances are favorable. Like, it's expensive to have an animal. If somebody's not in a financial place, please don't gift them an animal to where they may end up just leaving it on the side of the road somewhere, or neglecting it or whatever, even if it's not intentional by them. It's like, just, take stuff like that into account. Make sure you talk it over with somebody before you just surprise like a kid with a dog or something like that. Make sure the family can afford it. So coming from a family where, one year my sister, just because I did well on my report card, she just showed up with a cat for me, and my parents were like, oh, because they didn't know she was doing that. She just showed up with it. So turned out to be a great cat, and we loved her and all that stuff, but it was just, I had her for quite a while, but it was just the idea that, they were kind of like, you really should have talked to us about this first.
Yeah, no kidding.
So yeah, but just to be kind to the animals as well, because it is so sad how many stories there were with lockdown, with COVID, of how many people adopted animals, and then after lockdown was lifted, they had to go back to work, and then they couldn't take care of the animals, so then they just ditched the animals. It's like, come on, it's like you shouldn't do that. Like, that's a long term. It's one thing if you absolutely can't, but then don't just leave it on the side of the road. Like, try to find it a home or something. But anyway, yeah. curious to see if Santa shows up with the dog for Henno or not. So probably not. That's pretty quick. So
Probably not.
yeah, because I know you're also not the type to just go grab the first one you see. You usually put a little work into it. So. All right.
Benny was kind of the first one I saw. So.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. Well, all right. Fair enough. All right. Well, watch out for the first animal Henno sees. He's gonna.
Exactly.
Yep. Here comes a capybara. It's like, ooh, they look cute. Now he's got one.
Capybara.
Oh man. All right. Well, you can find this show on. Well, actually, if you want to continue the conversation with us. No. You can find our website at crazylifepodcast.weebly.com. Our email is crazylifepodcast@outlook.com. You can find the show on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. If you want to find me on various social media, I'm usually at Stunami. My other podcast can be found at salty_language on Twitter or at saltylanguage.com. And that show is not safe for work. And it's me and my best friend. And let's see, what did we talk about this week? Wu-Tang playing Vegas, Doritos liquor, art censorship, an In-N-Out that opened in your state.
Exactly.
That caused all sorts of shenanigans with people and waiting 8 hours for a stupid
8
burger
hours,
and fries.
4,000 burgers sold in one day.
That's crazy. How far away is that from you? Or actually, you know what? We'll talk about that off. I don't want to give your location away.
No, it's fine. It's like Meridian.
Yeah.
And like Boise. There was Boise and there was Nampa, and they were a half an hour apart, and in between was farmland. And at some point, that farmland became the town of Meridian.
Ah, okay, that's why it's
like
there.
So it's like
okay.
a suburb, right? Like now there's no like Boise just becomes Meridian, becomes Eagle, becomes Nampa. Like it's all suburbs.
I was
now,
wondering why they picked Meridian versus Boise or something like that, but okay, that makes sense then. They went with the trendy area, right? Essentially.
Well, it's what it is it's an area that has a lot of big malls.
Yeah.
And it has it's the place where the growth is happening. It's the place where all the new tech businesses are starting up, right?
Okay.
So it's a growth place, and it would make more sense for them to set up there than it would have been anywhere in downtown Boise.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, we talked about that stuff, and what else? Jonathan Majors and his situation in Marvel and everything. So just various pop culture stuff. So yeah, if you're into that, give us a listen. That's Salty Language, and that show's not safe for work though, so definitely be careful who's listening. Yeah. We're part of the Tangentbound Network, which can be found at tangentboundnetwork.com. And you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. I think that's all that stuffs. Yeah, and then as usual, if you need help, please reach out. There's all sorts of stuff out there. I know sometimes there's a long wait. I assume probably a good long wait now because you have a lot of people, not in the office as much and all that kind of stuff. But please stick with it, even if it's a few months or whatever. Please still reach out for help and try to find something. There's other things in the meantime you can find as well if you need help. There's lifelines and all that kind of stuff. So please reach out to somebody. Especially if your life is being negatively impacted by whatever it is you're dealing with. And then, as always, please show kindness whenever you can. Especially because there's so many people caught up in their to-do list this time of year and running from place to place to place to place. So, that people sometimes kind of lose track of kindness and empathy. So, please try to practice whenever you can. And then one last quick thing before I turn over to Henno here is, I said this on Salty Language also, which is if you're going to give to like a food bank or a shelter or something like that, reach out to them first and see what they really need. Because, like there's a thing on Twitter that goes around every year, and if I could find it again, I'd tweet it out again. But it talks about things that like every shelter gets tons of Kraft macaroni and cheese, but there's a bunch of things that they don't get that they really need. So, and same with like a lot of homeless shelters, if people want to donate socks, there's certain socks that would be better because they hold up better for the winter and that kind of stuff. So please reach out to them, or failing that, if you can just give cash, that's usually the best thing, because they can do a whole lot with the money, because a lot of them have things arranged, with different retailers or farmers or whatever. So yeah, but that's if you can help there, that's fine too. So yep. All right. That's it. I'll shut up and turn it over to Heno. If you want to take us out of here.
Yeah. Don't forget to live your omelet, and don't worry about yesterday's gingerbread cookies. They still taste delicious.